20 years ago, the world witnessed the appearance of countless monster dungeons. Along with that, humans also awakened special abilities to deal with them. They were called hunters. This guy had a special ability that only required him to kill ants in a mobile game to create dark coins. He didn't know how powerful his finger pointing was in the dark world. Wasn't this the power of a hunter? Shin immediately ran to the Hunter Association to register and test his ability. He was fantasizing about becoming an S-rank hunter and being surrounded by beautiful girls. But reality hit him hard in the eye. His only ability was G rank, which was almost useless. He was no different from a normal person and there was no dungeon for G rank to enter. He also lost 5,000 for the hunter card registration fee and he didn't even have money for noodles. He had no girlfriend and his job was unstable. He only knew how to kill ants to relieve stress and he had more than 400 dark coins. The next morning, his phone notified him that he had completed the necessary requirements to open the store of the god. The fee was 100 coins. The items inside were very hard to understand and their prices were sky high. He killed ants all night and only had 300 coins. Suddenly, his phone started glowing and the items on the store were only 100 coins each. So he bought one for fun. It was the skill of the blind god's eyes. Suddenly, his whole body shook and his eyes became blurry. He couldn't see anything. Luckily, he could see again normally later. He was scared out of his mind. He also realized that he could read the words in the game that he couldn't read before. He discovered that the skill of the god's index finger was the cheapest here at 100 coins. He took a risk and bought it. But after using it, he didn't see anything happen. He could only turn on and off the air conditioner. He thought it was amazing, but it was a crappy ability. He suddenly noticed a strange red ant that wouldn't die no matter how much he pressed it. It was challenging him to catch it. Shin went crazy and used his two-finger skill to attack it, but its speed was very fast. He couldn't defeat it for a while and his face turned blue with veins popping out. He played with it until he ran out of blood but still failed. He kept grinding until he was too tired and fell asleep. In his dream, he saw the red ant reporting that it was attacked by an unnamed dark god. The great wizard of their clan also recognized this presence and decided to take revenge for their race by killing him. Shin woke up feeling that it was too real. His phone showed countless notifications of ants invading. A white-bearded ant also appeared on the screen and it could shoot out power to hurt him. They wanted to die. While they were celebrating their victory because they thought they had killed Shin, a lot of energy sources fell from the sky and wiped out almost all of them. The great wizard was left with nothing but his underwear and asked what happened just now. Shin had punched his phone directly, playing so hard that he couldn't take it anymore. When he realized that his screen was broken, he cried out of regret. He did little but complained a lot. At this time, his phone also congratulated him on achieving the title of Evil God with the effect of increasing the luck of the unnamed god. He thought about himself as a good citizen who hadn't cheated on any girl yet, but they gave him the title of Evil Savior instead. He also found a ring here that smelled wonderful. When he tried it on, he felt full of life and his fatigue from grinding last night was gone miraculously. Besides, the eye skill of the blind god was activated to assess the skill. He looked around the room to use the TV that had been used for a year with a 3-month installment. Laptop used for 1 year and 2 months with 6 months left to pay. Especially the bed that has been used for 10 years of migration is best to throw away. Of course, there are countless other items in the same situation. He should take the name of the poor god to be right. Shin decided to go back to the Hunter Center to check his level again but got a bitter result of only 160,000 won, still should save money for noodles. He discovered that his appraisal skill could also be used on others. Suddenly he saw a girl named Miri with a special note suffering a shock. This is the first person he can see both the name and curious to ask her what happened then was considered a pervert, almost cursed. In the afternoon, Shin went out with his beautiful niece. Through his appraisal skill, he could see that she was craving cinnamon roll ice cream with chocolate flavor. As soon as she heard that he would buy ice cream, her mouth couldn't stand it and drooled. They went to the nearest ice cream shop when he gave out small change and was despised by the female employee. The ice cream was also taken less than usual. Shin immediately used his one-finger technique to make the ice cream machine squirt continuously. Finally, his niece got a giant ice cream cone, but when he asked for a bite, she refused, very annoying. The phone at this time showed a warning that the title of Brutal Death God was activated, a terrifying voice of the challenger who walked on the path of the great evil god. I will swallow everything including the challenges you are going through to become a true demon god. A huge buffalo-headed monster appeared here. Through his appraisal skill he found out it was 400 years old and wanted to kill him to get the challenge of God. Right at this time Mary Hunter level B met before rushed here. A huge thunderbolt hit the monster but didn't penetrate. Because this buffalo is a level A monster, her strength can't cope at all. Mary also couldn't see death without saving him and shouted at him and his niece to get out of here as fast as possible. She would hold it back. At this point her strength was exhausted. The monster rushed forward in front of her eyes thinking she would die here. Suddenly, she heard a strange voice in her head. Then, her whole body trembled and exploded, transforming the monster into a perfectly roasted buffalo. Mary had no idea where this newfound power had come from, and she suspected it might have been Shin's voice. While he remained oblivious to the source of the power, he received a notification that he had successfully passed the Brutal Death God challenge and leveled up. As a reward, he was granted the authority to purchase an item as a low-level god. That night, he received a cry for help from the Saint of the Black Tribe, who was praying for his assistance in defending her tribe against the Ant Empire's invasion. Driven by his innate goodness, he felt compelled to help. With a single-finger technique, he vanquished the Red Ant and earned the admiration of the Saintess, as well as the title of Merciful Savior. As a result, he was rewarded with 100,000 coins. Shin couldn't contain his excitement at the newfound wealth and promptly headed to the first shop, which offered a low-level god's blessing for 1,000 coins. This blessing had the power to awaken latent abilities, with its strength increasing with each use. However, when Shin used it again, he felt no extraordinary effects, only a taste similar to his mother's cooking. Shin continued to consume them in succession until he eventually passed out. The system also notified him that his synchronization rate with the omnipotent being had increased from 0% to 5%. When he woke up, he was on the bed, surrounded by countless fire ants. They attacked him madly, and he had no other choice. Shin had to use the finger of God to deal with a bunch of them, but they were still very crowded and used countless stings to attack him. Shin didn't have much strength left. He saw a bug spray in the room. Next, he sprayed the ants and said goodbye to them for daring to attack this poor god. His body then couldn't move. The phone showed a notification that the high-level black god of Silent Nightmare had given him a gift. He had to take a risk and accept it. His body was at its limit and he fell down, thinking he would die in a bland way, but Emily rushed in from outside and saved him in time. At the hospital, his sister and niece came to take care of him. The girl didn't recognize him because Shin's whole body was badly burned. His whole body was bandaged like a mummy. Outside there was also a large bouquet of flowers left by someone at the door. It was from Mary. She didn't understand why she could only unleash her power beyond herself when she was next to him. For the past 4 days, she had been observing him and had only noticed his handsome appearance, but nothing else. It all seemed quite surreal. Just as she was about to leave, Shin's behavior took an unexpected turn. As it turned out, in the Black Tribe, the Saintess and the people had been praying for him, believing he had passed away. However, to their surprise, Shin was very much alive. As they offered him the clan's treasure while he was eating, his expression changed dramatically. It was the fruit of the world tree, primarily known for enhancing the body's resilience. Shin spotted it and swallowed it immediately, feeling a sharp jolt as he did. The fruit had an extremely salty and spicy taste and was tough to eat, but its quality was undeniable as it rapidly healed the burns on his body. Witnessing this, Miri grew even more bewildered and couldn't fathom what kind of divine being Shin was. Shin's phone also displayed a notification about the activation of the God's Blessing feature, enabling him to bestow blessings upon his followers. As he examined some candy bars, he had the idea that their taste was delightful and they could even facilitate the rapid regrowth of lost limbs, which brought joy to everyone. This was the reward of the humble god, Shin, and it also helped him accrue faith points through an exchange rate, earning him an additional 10,000 coins. The following day, he ventured to the market to sell some items in order to cover the expenses incurred from the house's damage the day before. He was in a dire financial situation, akin to a stroke of bad luck. In Hera's shop, some hunters had arrived to sell their wares, including a set of armor that appeared to be in good condition. They were seeking 300 million won for it. However, Shin quickly discerned that the armor was nothing more than a piece of scrap iron with a skill enhancement enchantment. Just as they were about to receive their payment, Shin spoke up, revealing the armor's true nature. This revelation left them all dumbfounded. A burly individual rushed forward and grabbed Shin, demanding to know what he knew. In response, Shin used his one-finger technique to transform the armor into scrap iron. This display of power left them in shock. The burly individual still harbored intentions of seeking revenge but was halted by one of the others. He realized that the person in front of him was a high-level hunter who could not be touched and then ran away. The employee also thanked him profusely for saving her from being tricked by them. Shin brought out his ring and wanted to sell it for some money, but it was not worth much. The appraisal skill also told him to give it to Emily, which made him a bit confused. But she was also following him and guessed that he was a high-level hunter hiding his identity and could find out his identity and his ability to recover quickly. He could help her overcome her own limitations. She used to think he was a pervert, but now she seemed even more like one, always spying on handsome guys for no reason. Even though she covered her face with a mask, she was easily recognized by Shin. He also gave her the ring. A few days later, Miri checked her hunter's strength and it was over 7,000 MP. She was only a B-class hunter, but her MP was more terrifying than an A-class hunter. It was all thanks to the ring he gave her. At the same time, in the Dark World, the Emperor ordered General Kamakiri and 5 million ant soldiers to kill him, the unnamed Dark God. But Shin was also warned about this and it was not a dream. Last time he killed more than 100,000 of them, but their numbers were 50 times more. He had a headache. Just then, the high-level Dark Dream God texted him and told him how to achieve power by sacrificing 100 people, especially those close to him. He immediately blocked him. Of course, the eyeless god was activated and he saw the Imperial Ant Army preparing to attack him. He had 4 days left. The Saintess and his 101 god people were also afraid of the attack of the Empire. Before the room was renovated, he had to prepare well for this battle. First of all, he had to know his own information. He looked in the mirror and used the appraisal skill, but only saw a loser's name. He didn't know what kind of crappy skill it was. Next, he had to buy the skill of the Finger of Judgment of God. It sounded cool, but it was no different from a lighter. It was introduced that its ability would be enhanced when combined with the Finger of Judgment of God, but it didn't make any difference. The editor also urged him to write faster and publish new chapters for his readers. As an old novelist, he also felt a lot of pressure and had a headache. Without views, he could only eat noodles instead of rice. Meanwhile, Miri came to visit him. She even came in through the front door for politeness. Normally she just came in through the big hole in the wall. As a result, Shin was not at home while he was working hard and fainted. He was kidnapped by the hunters from before and taken to an abandoned warehouse. They wanted him to pay for ruining their business deal before. They also reminded him that now robbery also had QR codes and he could transfer money in one shot. His phone then showed a notification that the Imperial Army had arrived. Countless red ants came out of the phone and covered the robber. In a blink of an eye, he only had his underwear left. The ant army was arranged tightly and ready to go into battle. The other two thought his power was controlling insects. He immediately fired a fire attack that killed them all. Then he aimed at him and attacked, forcing him to be knocked down by a stone bullet from the ant army. How could it be so powerful? The big guy went crazy and wanted to escape from here, but he couldn't. Just like before the battle started, this place was sealed off. The ant commander ordered countless stones to be shot at him and killed him immediately. His whole body was gradually destroyed by the ants. Shin was still tied up and wondered if he would die here. Suddenly, a lightning bolt flashed through this place and made a loud noise. The ant army was almost wiped out. Miri, his girlfriend, appeared again to rescue him. In the eyes of the general, he was a terrifying evil god whose subordinates could be so strong. This would surely threaten the empire and the throne of his majesty. Today, he would risk his life to take down the evil god's subordinates. He sacrificed all the heads of the ant warriors to gain power. He killed all his people in one move and became terrifying. He rushed to attack Miri with insane speed. Even her thunderstorm skill was smashed by him. With a slash, Miri was killed by him. To avenge his majesty, he could only pay with his life. The next evil god was you. Shin's face was full of veins and he summoned the game system. He used the skill of God to exchange 100k coins to rewind time to before Miri was killed. Then he used 100k gold to enhance his strength and escape from the chains. In a blink of an eye, he pulled Miri away from the attack of the ant general. At this time, his eyes emitted a golden light and became very cool. Miri confirmed her guess that he was a master hiding his skills. Shin released the judgment of his body, but his fingers looked very strange. With a loud noise, he destroyed the warehouse and the entire ant army was annihilated. Miri witnessed this scene and dropped a basket of eggs. She wanted to accept him as her master, even though he explained that he was just a writer, a G-class hunter with no power. But she realized that he was the author of this novel and she was sure that being with him would make her smarter. She decided to take responsibility for him and for the wall she broke before. In a moment, she fixed his room as new. To thank her, he gave Miri the blessing of God's development and she left happily. He had to eat alone for a long time before he had a chance to eat grilled meat. On TV, there was an announcement that a S-class brake monster had appeared at the gate of the Congress Hall. Luckily, a hunter appeared in time at the scene, but it seemed that she could only last long enough for the people to run away. It was none other than Thunderstorm Miri. TV also broadcasted live the scene where Miri was trying to fight the monster to get the civilians out of there, but it was a S-class monster and she was not sure if she could stop it. Then she unleashed a full-power thunderbolt attack that directly defeated the monster as easy as eating candy. How could this be possible? A B-class hunter who just entered the profession could easily cook a S-class monster. Thunderstorm Miri became more and more famous. Just then, the monster woke up and hid her away. In danger, Miri remembered the yellow potion that her master gave her after being buffed by his equipment. Her whole body emitted electricity and her eyes also shone with divine light. She used her thunderstorm skill directly to roast it. This made him also dumbfounded that his disciple was so strong. In the backstage interview after winning, Miri directly shouted, "Master, are you watching? I did it, right? Where did you buy your stuff? It's so good." The video became very popular and everyone was curious about the mysterious master of Thunderstorm. Meanwhile, she was eating noodles at his house. Shin also advised her to go home after eating and not to stay here and mooch off him. But Mary said, no one would worry about her anyway. Her parents died in the dragon incident. The whole world united but still could not defeat them. They were the horrors that took millions of lives. The system then showed a notification, you have been liked and trusted by your target. If your target says the keyword I trust you, Shin will activate faith. He thought for a while, wasn't it then that he would activate the believer like the saintess? If so, he would get a lot of God coins to see. He didn't know when those ants would attack again, so the more God coins, the better. He immediately asked Mary to repeat his words, I trust you, Shin. This was really too easy. The mission was completed. The phone also showed a notification congratulating Mary as your first believer on Earth. The skill sharing menu was created. From then on, he could borrow the skills of the believers, which made him very angry. What I want is for you to vomit it out here. Just then, a spatial gate opened. The ants of the Empire were transmitting the Emperor's order, but he didn't care. First of all, he had to try Mary's thunderstorm skill. With a loud noise, the whole room was blown away. This made her also exclaim, Master, you are too violent. Where are you going to pay for this, you are poor? At the same time, the queen ant received intelligence, the locust swarm has been exterminated. Perhaps the evil god did not want to negotiate at all. The emperor was very angry with the arrogant evil god who had never been humiliated like this in his 500 years of reign. Bring the head of that idiot here for me. The next day he started training Mary because he had mistakenly accepted her as his disciple. The water of God's blessing was only like sting, but it had a great effect on Mary. He could only help her with this. Shin used the eyeless god to enter Mary's mind, and he was a bit shocked by the scene inside. He didn't expect that the white tiger thunderbolt was being sealed in her body. It was a S-class power, but it was bound by a SS-class seal. The reason she became stronger when she was near him was because the finger skill of God accidentally broke the seal. The way it worked was similar to controlling the air conditioner on and off. In other words, her whole power would be released if he completely cut off the seal. But each time he could only get a little bit with his current strength. The story of him dating beautiful girls every day was followed by a mysterious person. He intended to go home and take a nap, but his room was only left with underwear, no different from a 1,000-star hotel. Not only that, he was also harassed by 2 dark gods or something. They wanted to take back the sword in his hand. After a while of bargaining, he finally got a good deal. He got the infinite sword and 2.200000 god coins. 3 times using the treasure of heaven from the heavenly sword of absolute iron. He also got the rose blooming at night from the silent dream to unlock Zalo for him. The skill of rose blooming at night could only be used while sleeping. And he didn't see anything from the infinite sword. Suddenly he had a bloodthirsty feeling and wanted to chop everything up. What kind of crazy sword was this? The restaurant nearby thought he was high and asked him to chop vegetables until nightfall. They didn't know how miserable he was. Luckily, after a few hours of venting, Shin finally returned to normal and fell asleep exhausted. Next to the Queen's ant colony, they came here. They wanted to take the opportunity to ambush him and take the top position in the 10 swords. The skill of roses blooming at night was activated. Countless soldiers rushed up and were eaten by it. The leader of them was constantly scared. What was going on here? He realized that it was the flower of illusion that he had read in the ancient book of the tribe. The record said that a cruel god had swallowed more than 90% of the people living in the territory 3,000 years ago. She immediately ordered all the troops to attack, but they were all swallowed by the flower of illusion. The next morning, Shin woke up and didn't know what had happened. Last night, the phone showed a message to the saint and the believers beg you to come and save them. Through his appraisal skill, he realized that they had been poisoned by bees and thought that they dared to break the beehive to get honey and were stung. He had to use magic that cost 100k coins to heal them, but he didn't report it. He only saw a rain of magic falling from the sky, and their bodies full of toxins were quickly relieved. From then on, his title of savior was promoted from E to D, himself changed from evil god to neutral god and was noticed by some idol gods. He was still sleeping when he woke up and saw Mary next to him. Moreover, there was a statue of him there that looked so funny. It was a statue made by the Black tribe to commemorate and honor their god. But it looked so ugly. It was so ugly that he didn't know what to say. Mary even asked to take it home to admire it, which made him kneel down. He knew he was handsome, but did he need to idolize him like that? The seed of the world tree was also planted by the believers. Its condition was sick and about to wither, so he decided to use the blessing of the growth god, but it didn't work. The fruit of the world tree was very valuable, he couldn't let it die like that. If he sold it as a medicine for wounds, wouldn't he be rich? After a while of searching, Shin found an item called Tear of Prosperity God for 20k coins, but he had to do a quest to buy it. He had to clean up 100 points of trash, then an old man appeared and stopped him, saying that this was his territory. Shin thought he was a homeless old man and gave him some of his last money so he could eat something. Who knew that this old man got angry and yelled at him for daring to give charity to Choi-kan-san. It turned out that the old man was a S-rank hunter who used to be a street cleaner. His attitude was one thing, but his hand quickly put the money in his pocket. The old man also bought alcohol and drank with him. Shin didn't forget to remind him to throw the trash in his bag so he could earn some quest points. He also found this guy very interesting. Suddenly a monster appeared nearby. The old man was a S-rank hunter and dragged Shin along for fun. His speed was fast as lightning, jumping high and making him scared as hell. He was afraid of heights, let alone landing on the ground. A giant frog monster appeared in front of them, but the old man didn't hesitate and attacked it directly. The flower of illusion also appeared and attacked the monster. A while later, the old S-rank hunter was also swallowed by it along with the monster. Luckily he was spit out because he had no ill will towards him. The smell was terrible too. The phone showed a message: "You have defeated the evil minion of the demon god and contributed to protecting the peace of the world. Progress 1000 out of 100. You have received a mythical item, Tear of Eternal Prosperity. The effect of the Tear of Eternal Prosperity has been activated. The seed disease of the world tree has been cured." And to thank him for curing the world tree's disease, the believers carved another statue for him. He hoped it could be more beautiful. However, their skills were still not improved. Ugly pain, ugly agony, insulting people. Suddenly he received a message from the Saint Aunt that she wanted him to save their Black tribe. One of their members was attacked by the demon tribe. He immediately pretended to be angry and asked for their address. But when he saw the snake demon tribe, he was scared and jumped up. The number was also terrifying. The Black Ant tribe thought they would die here. But the saint shouted, "Everyone, don't worry, we are protected by God Shin." As soon as he turned around, he ran away. They were shocked and realized that they had made a mistake this time. It turned out that he ran home to buy insect spray and made the cockroaches unconscious. Then he shouted, "My people, deal with them." The phone also showed a message: "You can learn a new skill, the Thumb of God, for 100 coins. He was about to try the new skill when he was called by the editor-in-chief. While drinking, he kept scolding him for not publishing chapters regularly, making the readers complain a lot. He didn't know how hard he had to work to find inspiration and creativity. That night, his people finally finished dealing with the demon cockroaches. And he also received 300 million coins when they completed the system. He was advised to reward them with some skills to become stronger. But this guy was drunk and randomly chose the most expensive skill, creating heaven and earth for 1,000 trillion god coins. But he didn't have enough money, so this skill would be used once to suit Shin. The world changed partly and the sky suddenly became strange, making everyone shocked. The second moon appeared, and the Earth sent a spaceship to approach the second moon, but it didn't work. It lost control as soon as it got close, and the moment the second moon appeared in the morning, everyone would be amazed. While no one knew anything more than that it emitted yellow light at night and green light during the day. Experts predicted that the gates and dungeons would skyrocket, so through reports, the Korean hunter associations would cooperate with the government to determine the location of the second moon. The next day, he was still training Mary and later had to invade her mind, but White Tiger was cuter than before. Maybe it knew that this guy was helping to break the seal and even licked him as if he was familiar. And outside Mary also felt her strength increasing a lot, thinking it was because of his training method. The Saint Ant also asked him to name her. He named the Ant Kid Anti, and countless people also asked him to name them, which was really a headache. Their tribe was also named Kazami, and now they have evolved. He also started to build his base for them. He also accidentally placed a warrior tower that only the bravest warriors could challenge with almost no chance of survival. It was what threatened the ants, so in the end he still had to build a fence around it. A strong-looking ant stood up and challenged it. He wanted to have the strength to protect his people from the emperor of the empire. Meanwhile, the goddess of the empire returned. She was highly valued this time and would hunt with their black tribe and their demon god. Shin was still frantically writing scripts to release new chapters for the editorial board. If he didn't make it this week, he would officially be unemployed. He also looked at his people who were sleeping happily. Only the ant guy from yesterday was still training hard to protect everyone. It seemed that after evolving, each person would have their own characteristics. Shin also helped him by giving him the blessing of God. He didn't notice that the henchman of the goddess had arrived and was aiming at him. I didn't expect these mosquitoes to have such ugly faces. Guys, they are still plotting to suck my blood to get the power of God. They rushed up at the fastest speed and bit me, bringing along malaria. While enjoying the blood of God, they were smashed flat. Then he felt cold and kept sneezing. He was going to wash his face when a strange tattoo appeared on his forehead. The phone also showed a message that the cold curse had been activated along with the curse of fever, muscle pain and loss of appetite. He immediately had to look for a cure item that cost 50k coins and then had to complete a quest to get it. He would have to save 100 people to complete this quest. Just then, a bald man rushed to the hospital with a bunch of bombs and threatened everyone. He saw the tattoo on his forehead and thought he was an accomplice sent by his boss. Mary didn't understand what was going on and argued with the bald guy, "This is my master's finger skills, don't you dare slander him." Meanwhile, Shin had penetrated his memory and saw the next mastermind using his index finger to blow away his control. Mary took this opportunity and quickly knocked him down, but his condition was very critical. The death curse had been activated and Shin passed out. In his dream, he accidentally went to a strange place. Suddenly there was a scary voice, "A new god who dared to wake me up. The punishment for your sin will be endless death and pain. Soon you will sink into despair and beg me to kill you." They hadn't finished their sentence when they were swallowed by the flower of illusion. The quest to save 100 people was also completed and the medicine started to work. His whole body recovered quickly. But the mastermind behind the Han's followers witnessed all this scene. He ordered his men to capture Mary and him within 4 days so that he could see the protection of the divine spirit permeating his body. That night, he saw the warrior ant who had asked for help from Shin before. He wanted more water from God's blessing because he had risked challenging the warrior tower. The result was almost dead, he would die in a 10 seconds countdown. Shin wanted to use God's blessing water but couldn't. Luckily he had a new item and used it to save him. Then something happened. The warrior tower was in and couldn't get out unless he conquered the 50th floor. He cried and begged for God's help. He had to buy him a bunch of energy drinks. Suddenly someone knocked on the door. He ran out and saw a tall black man who introduced himself as Kim, the head of Belen's detective agency. The ant guy who had received the title of Eternal Seeker had become stronger than a big rock that he smashed with one punch. He kept passing the floors of the warrior tower. At the same time, the main character was receiving a huge offer to become a hunter of the Belen's Association with a salary of 300 million dong a year. He secretly thought that if he had 300 million, he could comfortably write drafts without worrying about the evil manager and eat fried rice with beef as much as he wanted. His face couldn't hide his excitement. Moreover, he would receive 70% of each product and a bonus when he hunted monsters. He only noticed that his appraisal skill had been activated. The guy in front of him was the henchman of the god of destruction. This was definitely a trap. He had to pretend to have a stomach ache and escape to the toilet for now. He was about to call for hunters or police when he broke the door and rushed in. He punched him directly and gave him a beating. He grabbed his neck and lifted him up, wanting him to faint so he could easily take him away. Just then, the phone showed an urgent message to rescue the believers on Earth. Miri was in danger. He needed strength to defeat this guy. The warrior ant immediately shared his skill with him. The skill of Chi's body was activated and his whole body burst out with power. He pushed back the guy with one blow and his body was strengthened with 6 packs and all. This was the power that the little ant had worked hard in the warrior tower. He couldn't underestimate him like before. I feel guilty for being disappointed because I was entrusted with a task that I thought was easy. I'm not sure if the matter with Loi Hao has been resolved or not, but I won't joke anymore. Shin threw a powerful punch, but it was dodged by him. He was still confident. He was a newbie with no experience. How could he beat him? Before he finished speaking, he was punched and broke his jaw. Then he hit him directly and made him lie flat on the ground. He quickly used the system to search for Miri for a rubber price. She had been defeated by the demon sword and her life was hanging by a thread. If he was a sword fanatic, he also had one, but it was small. Shin used 100k coins to change Miri's fate. He was directly teleported there. Because he had played with the infinite sword plus his own knife, this guy started to get high and just wanted to cut and slash. The demon sword attacked him, but Shin blocked it with his small knife. What was going on? Even S-rank couldn't block his sword, but this guy only used a tiny knife and could do that. He unleashed his ultimate move, but it was still blocked by him easily like cutting fruits. He kept attacking, but all were blocked by him. This guy panicked and wondered if this was really Loi Hao's master. He was an unofficial hunter who was not managed by the government and the Hunter Association, so why didn't he have any information? This guy had to play with drugs to fight with him. The side effects were not small. His lifespan would be shortened and his body went crazy, releasing power on his face. Also appeared a tattoo like the guy before. Surely it was a curse of the god of destruction. His speed was very fast, rushing up to attack him, thinking that he could easily win after dirty buffing. But his sword broke and Shin's head twisted backwards to block the sword just now. Then this guy wasn't human anymore. Playing hack, then who could beat him? Next, he slashed countless sword strokes at him. This guy thought he had been put on the table to admire bananas all over. But he himself wasn't scratched at all. Shin also admitted that he was a sword saint who stood at the end of the sword path. Only those who reached the peak could get that title. Just then, the system announced that the time for sharing Chi body skill had ended and returned to his useless body. Although he killed the sword of the sword saint, he also became a fruit peeler because he lost his effect. He was about to run away when the other guy suddenly lost. Please give me a chance to see more of your swordsmanship, Sword Saint. I will work hard for you. At this moment, he only cared about looking at Miri. He immediately understood and ran to give her his medicine. She could recover immediately as long as she wasn't too injured. He even wanted to cut his stomach to atone for hurting her, but he was stopped by him. This demon sword was very strong. He couldn't kill more than 2 hands of people. Shin immediately told his brother to go kill the Shin Association, making him stunned. They were the ones who hired him to assassinate Mary, but this was the order of the Sword Saint. He couldn't refuse. This was the stick hitting his own back. The phone also showed a message that you received a crazy believer who qualified to unlock a new power, prosperity gesture skill copy that could pick money. This is it. He immediately took 101 to try, but it didn't work much. He was still bitter. He thought he could print real money. He thought for a while and then decided to use the new skill to create more warrior ants. Suddenly Shin noticed that the Saint Ant was using her healing spell, which was fake before. The editor-in-chief also called to urge him to release a new chapter. Shin suddenly had a crazy idea. He would create a clone of himself with prosperity, just for fun, but it worked. A handsome and tall clone appeared in front of him. The time was 6.666 seconds. He was still assigning his brother to write the script for him, but he was slapped and broke his jaw. Next, he had plastic surgery on his teeth and face to make him more handsome. The editor-in-chief was also hit by the clone right in the face. He was ugly and had no girlfriend. Get out of here. The clone turned into a brutal killer and entered his phone. He alone took on all the monsters that dared to attack the Black Tribe. The entire army of the Empire was quickly annihilated. The Emperor was in seclusion to break through the god level, so the female official would handle everything. She summoned 10 swords to deal with the Black Tribe, which was her top priority at this time. Bring me the head of that demon god before His Majesty finishes cultivating. At the same time, Shin woke up and remembered being beaten by his clone, which made him even more bitter. The publisher not only canceled the contract with him but also made him pay compensation. In the Black Tribe, the killer clone also invaded the neighboring kingdoms crazily, making him more shocked. He had to frantically type drafts in time to submit. Suddenly a message appeared that he and the Demon Sword believer were in danger. The rescue mission had been activated. He was being tortured but still refused to say half a word about who made him do this. The Demon Sword was captured while attacking the Shin Association, and those in front of him were all henchmen of the God of Destruction who were blessed and looked very hard, making him a bit scared. They were also colleagues before the Demon Sword worked for the Shin Association. The bald guy couldn't stand it when he betrayed them and wanted to kill the Demon Sword directly. In front of the urgent situation, Shin immediately used the sharing skill to copy the power of Chi's body. He suddenly appeared and rescued the Demon Sword, making them surprised. Next, he used Mary's lightning skill, but the system said he couldn't use it. With his divine level, he could only use one skill at a time and his body started to overload and twitch. But the bald guy thought he was teasing him. He immediately rushed over with a huge source of power that made his whole body numb. Shin didn't care because he had a chi body that could resist overload of power. That girl was crazy and shot fire at him, but with Chi's body, this guy felt good as if he was bathing in a hot spring. Then he knocked her down with one blow. Just then, Chi's body expired, luckily. The rescue mission was also completed and his talent skill was upgraded. He didn't know how to get out of here when a naked pervert appeared. "I'm straight, don't try to seduce me." He was the priest Ohan who performed the sacrifice ritual for the god of destruction. I was so excited that my whole body was shaking. I couldn't believe that I finally met a fellow disciple. He was about to approach him when he was blocked by the Demon Sword and easily blown away. Shin couldn't believe that this pervert was so strong. He asked him who his master was. "I'm the god here, I don't need to follow anyone." He punched him hard and broke his jaw, thinking he had defeated him, but not yet. Then he used lightning to attack him and only heard him scream in pain. But he couldn't kill him. This guy was not a normal pervert but a super pervert. He ran out of time to use powerful skills. He couldn't use the thunder punch anymore. Maybe he would be screwed today. At this point, he couldn't do anything but that move. Shin pointed his thumb at his forehead and used the move to summon his killer clone. Last time he made him work and got punched by him, so this time he kept quiet. He also said that the Gazami tribe was in trouble. He didn't realize that the believers were dying and all the divine power was slowly disappearing. Then he crawled into his phone to say the ant tribesman, he would have to deal with that pervert himself. Before leaving, he reminded him to use that move, God's judgment finger gesture, thinking it was scary, but it turned out to be just a lighter. He was disappointed when he saw that. Shin tried his best but only shot out some tiny sparks, which succeeded in making him mad. He went crazy and unleashed his power towards him. This was the end after defeating his 2 disciples. Now this guy was hard to play with, thinking about dying at the hands of a pervert. Life was not like living. Suddenly he felt pain under his ribs. It turned out that the wound caused by his fire prevented him from recovering as before. He angrily hit him with gravity and his body was pressed down to the ground. Both sides were very hard to resist. Meanwhile, the poisonous butterfly of the empire was slaughtering the black ant tribe, which weakened the power of the demon god. His killer clone rushed to deal with him. With a loud bang, he returned to dust and still muttered. Below, countless ant believers had been poisoned and almost died. The phone showed a message that the number of his believers was decreasing rapidly. If it continued like that, his power would be lost. Reviving all believers would cost more than 5 million coins. He immediately used his thumb to heal himself and then used it to revive the believers. He was really rich now and didn't fear anyone. The pervert was too late to attack him. He shared the skill of Chi body. Next, he used the middle finger of God to kill him, but he dodged it. I will offer 999 gifts that I have to the God of Destruction and you a more precious gift than all the other gifts, the last piece of me. He wanted to become the descendant of the God of Destruction. There was a loud bang and the building was torn apart by something. A wicked eye appeared and the pervert was directly killed by his god. Next, it was Shin's turn. He suddenly fell into an illusion and knew that the God of Destruction only wanted to live peacefully with his lover before, but he was betrayed by the chaos and now he only had hatred in his heart. His disciple was surrounded by dark snakes very quickly and his whole body was drained of vitality. Please summon a sword at this time that made him pay attention. This was the ultimate power of the sword that gave him. It would make the sword reach its maximum strength and potential and also make the person holding it merge with the sword. The power of the monster was very terrifying. He slashed down the God of Destruction and also gave him a beating. But the shock he created was too horrible. The people from the association came to investigate and didn't know if this horrible disaster was caused by a god or a monster. When they found the pervert, he was in the shape of an old man. He was still shocked by what he had just seen. His god was defeated. 2 days later, he was being taken care of by his niece. His body had healed from the wounds caused by using Siu Thien sword before, and there was also Kui Kim. He was the one who fixed his house, which was different from his fellow believers. What about the task I gave you? Why do you have time to sit here? I don't have to do it myself. The special team of the Hunter Association led by S-rank Hunter Mina is handling them. Actually, the black market in Korea has basically collapsed. The system also announced the task of preventing the clone of Fathan from coming to Earth with a progress of 1/1000 but good luck increased by 1 million. He also qualified for the promotion task with 2 choices, Good God and Evil God, both are super hard tasks. And he had to do both at the same time, which was playing with each other and getting 10 S-rank believers or killing them. Should we do it? Becoming a good or evil god at this level is clearly hell. We should have more power and authority at this time, but this task is nothing but suicide. Maybe it would be better if those who followed us from both sides fought each other, right? We could win if we took advantage of them. Then he visited Mary, who was healing from yesterday's injury. As soon as he entered her room, she was still doing 999 push-ups, which made him bow down and wonder how she could be so strong. Staying in the hospital with her was really boring, just warming up with 999 push-ups. She took off her bandage and showed him that she had no scars, which made Shin speechless. Just then, her sister came and scolded her for showing off her body to him. Then she slapped her painfully on her back with 5 red fingers and turned to him and asked what his relationship with her sister was. What kind of relationship did you have with Miri that she could do that in front of you? She thought he was a playboy who specialized in deceiving innocent girls. Miri had to immediately explain for him that he was her teacher. Is this unemployed loser your teacher? You said he was a guide at the Hunter Academy, right? He was about to explain when Miri shouted at him, "Don't tell my sister," so he had to say he was a physical education teacher at the academy. He must be an official hunter. If he is a teacher at the academy, but I have never seen him, what is his rank and why does it matter? He doesn't look special at all. Miri ran to defend our teacher Shin. He is really amazing, you know. Although he is not known to the world and looks miserable, he can be much stronger than you, so don't treat him rudely. At this moment, her face was full of blue veins because of anger. So now you are not a timid kitten anymore, huh? Because you have advanced to a level, you don't care about your sister's words anymore, do you? Mina immediately used her mind control skill to make her sister hold her head and apologize. Miri was also forced by her sister to kneel down and take the blame. Seeing that, Shin also rushed to stop Shin. Calm down, you could hurt the kid with this level, he said. But this guy didn't see anything, he just heard her louder than usual. Mina went crazy and unleashed her power, but it had no effect on him. You can resist my mind control skill, teacher. You are awesome, Mina was shocked then. Could this guy be above her level? He thought to himself that she was only G level, don't make me say it in a shameful way. Then she apologized to him and asked him to take care of her sister before leaving. She also reminded her sister to take care of her health. There was porridge that she had just bought. Shin used appraisal on her and she was cursed by the abyss because of something related to the god of destruction. He immediately asked her about it. The beautiful face of the goddess became scary. How did you know this? Her emotions changed rapidly. She spoke like a market woman again and felt pressured by an S-rank hunter. If she was like this normally, then what would she be like in the middle of a battle? And someone like that became my believer, which was really hell. Then he called Miri to the rooftop with him for a while. He wanted to break the seal of Miri. But even though he used many sealing skills, it was still very solid. The tiger looked cute though. I thought it was simple when I got stronger after that accident, but it seemed wrong. Miri would become an S level when I could release this thing, then I could level up. Shin used appraisal on Miri and her power was partly sealed and there was no clue at all. And his staring at the young girl's body made Miri more embarrassed. Finally he could see the cause to solve this problem. He would have to meet her sister in the prison of the association. Yuhan was sentenced and he couldn't imagine that the one he always worshipped as a god was a demon. Even worse, he killed his own sister. He turned around and worshipped Shin as his savior god. He immediately received a message that he had a new fellow believer, Yuhan. This guy had S-rank power, so his task was completed 1 out of 10. Next, there was an announcement that Yuhan had died. He was killed by Mina for daring to attack her sister. The announcement board showed up again. Everything of the believer would belong to the god he worshipped. He would receive a gift. Countless warning boards appeared when accepting the gift. He would have to endure the pain as his body was destroyed. He only heard his own miserable scream that could be heard clearly from several blocks away. Just like that, he received Yuhan's power. Fortunately, the level up challenge was not lost. He carefully thought that he could do almost anything because he had gained a lot of strength. He could become a hunter and earn both money and fame. But that was not really everything. He was a writer, even though he was only a third-class writer who had just been terminated. But when his emotions surged, he had to write. An hour later, he uploaded 10 chapters at once. This was his true feeling that he experienced himself. So the feedback would surely be better. As soon as he entered the comment section, he was shocked. Out of 10 comments, 9 of them scolded him for having no brain. The best thing was still to find another job. Just then, Mary ran to find him. She looked very urgent. Under the pleading eyes of a beautiful and innocent girl, he could not refuse. The thing she wanted to ask him was to become her guardian instead of her sister. Surely at the academy, Mary reported too much and was invited by the principal for tea. This matter could not be known by Mina. It turned out that it was not natural that her faith increased by 10. He could not believe that Mary even wanted to buy him a nice outfit so that the whole world would know about his dazzling beauty that blinded their eyes. He knew he was handsome, but not to that extent. Could it be that she started to follow the path of a fanatic? Come on, hurry up or we will be late for the meeting. The teacher questioned their relationship. Mary said he was her cousin and grandfather's nephew. Indeed, they looked a bit alike, except for the face. He was told to only say what she had told him before, but it was harder when he passed the door. Through his appraisal skill, he knew that the teacher in front of him was a muscle maniac and he was also a hunter. Having the same bloodline as Mary, he must be very talented. He just called himself an ordinary person who would boast about being a G-class trash. In the principal's office, the old principal turned out to be Choi Kong-san, the hunter who cleaned up the waste. Now he would take on this position to find and nurture young talents, and the biggest problem right now was Mary. Lately, she not only developed rapidly but also the leaders of the association knew that she was actually quite spoiled. The important thing was to help her develop properly. In today's meeting, he would talk specifically about this issue so she would understand. But he did not expect that Mary's parents were the guy he met when he was drunk last time. They immediately recognized each other and both stood still for 5 seconds. Witnessing the terrifying power from his dreamless flower, the old man could not believe it either. Just then, that guy shouted at him if he was drunk last time. "Green beans don't come near me." The principal had prepared a defensive posture. He also did not understand why the old man was very friendly last time, but Mary had to stand up to stop them. Shin also reminded him that he was kind to him and gave him 5,000 won that day. The old man was scared and even jumped out of the window to escape. He did not force the old man to pretend, but he ran and screamed loudly, making the students not understand what happened. This principal was also too reckless. The teacher had to apologize to him. They seemed to have a little problem here after he saved someone before. I think it was just an occupational disease. I'm sure he will be back soon. A while later, the principal finally returned to normal to talk. Mary was still like a grinder and ate cake. She also invited him to try it as if he was at home. Suddenly, the principal's eyes became hostile to him. It turned out that this was his favorite snack. Was it necessary to do that? Do you have anything to say to me? If so, we can talk privately somewhere discreet. He immediately shivered and said no need. Just sit down and talk as usual. The teacher next to him also started to talk about the main issue. We called you here today because Mary often skipped classes, as you saw. She is a smart and sincere student, so we hope you will pay more attention to her and maintain her excellent performance at school. Yes sir, don't worry. I will definitely take care of Mary more. Thank you for coming in your busy schedule. They were about to leave when they were stopped by the principal. I can't let you go like that. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? Our Hunter Academy is equipped with the most modern machines. Just go and do some tests. He clearly begged him to do what he wanted. If you do the test, I will do whatever you want. That's too unrealistic. If you ignore all of Mary's absences and don't force her to practice anymore, I will consider it. The principal immediately agreed. What kind of student is this? They did a hunter-level test for Shin. This was a bit redundant because his previous result was only a G-class hunter. In front of him was a gray gem that could measure the power of a hunter by placing his hand on it. The price of it was up to millions of won. When he put his hand on the gem, it suddenly glowed yellow and then ended. The data was very impressive. He thought he would become an S-rank hunter in a flash, but he got nothing. The evaluation results showed that he was only G-class, no more no less. There was nothing worth watching at all. You are the worst person I have ever seen. He was petrified because there was no hole to crawl into. Did you need to say it directly like that? The old principal next to him could not believe it either. Surely there was something wrong with the machine. The girl replied that the error rate of this machine was almost zero. The principal began to think back that maybe that day after fainting, he could use that terrible power. If so, just knock him out. The old man rushed to him. He wanted to use the VAR technology a bit. He also said that those machines could not do anything. It made the girl very angry. Shin also thought that the S-rank guys who fought with him to become fanatics might be able to get an S-rank disciple he needed for the upgrade challenge if he taught this old man a lesson. So he immediately agreed. This made everyone panic. A G-class hunter dared to accept the challenge of a veteran S-class hunter. How? The muscular teacher next to him also could not see this scene. He wanted to rush up first. It was not appropriate for the Legend of Korea, our principal, to fight in this situation. The two quickly went to the combat room. The teacher advised him to wear protective gear to protect his mouth and eat porridge. But he did not need it. First of all, the teacher should take care of himself. He was the leader of rank B. His combat experience could be compared with high-level rank A. Miri also cheered him on. He knocked out the teacher in one blow, making him even more angry. The whole academy also came here to watch the match. The attitude of not caring about the rank difference of him really made me furious. I did not know what the chairman saw in this guy, but I would show him what a real hunter was. The match just started. The teacher rushed to punch him. Luckily, Shin dodged in time. Then he immediately approached him and threw a punch that knocked him out but did not hurt at all. Shin used the power of God's finger and knocked him down with one move. He could not believe that a G-class guy could beat a B-class one. Indeed, this grandfather was hiding his skills. Next, the principal went directly to the floor to fight. On his body were countless muscles and scars from various battles. But he did not flinch because having a strong believer like this would make him stronger. He did not expect that he could beat Teacher Gallon from Australia like that. As predicted, that machine was broken. Compared to his ability that day, this was nothing. He would knock Shin out to catch the dreamless flower. Before the match started, he directly bet with him. The loser would have to listen to a request of the winner as long as it was not illegal. He also agreed as long as he said the keyword like Mary did at that time and became his believer. The battle began and the principal unleashed his strongest power, shocking him. He was also a bit scared. This drunk old man was not a joke. He had to use all his power to fight back, but his posture was too arrogant. He immediately threw a super strong punch at him, but it was easily blocked. Next, the two of them rushed into each other and exchanged blows. The principal's goal was to make him work at his academy. He burst out with a domineering power and his eyes also shone with divine light. The two of them were preparing for high-tech when a notification appeared that the Ant Warrior had passed the 11th floor of the Warrior Tower. Every time he passed a floor, he would receive a gift for him, but first he had to defeat this old man. When their fists touched each other, a bunch of roses appeared there. It was the gift of the Ant Warrior. The old principal saw it and remembered the nightmare from last time. He immediately ran away and shouted, "Mom, save me." It was really hilarious. The ant goddess also informed him that more than 4 million people wanted to join his tribe. The progress of the mission was gradually completed. He started to upgrade and expand his tribe twice as much, build new areas, and build more training areas. Congratulations on the increase in the number of your followers, but the mission requires 1 billion followers and you only have 10 million. I don't know how long you have to grind. While texting with the ant goddess, he also accidentally swore. The followers thought it was the way of greeting of the god and also learned from him. He was really funny. Suddenly, the system showed a warning that the Devil Sword follower was intending to commit suicide. Do you want to save him or not? Shin suddenly appeared in front of the Devil Sword and blocked a full-force blow from his opponent for him. The Devil Sword saw that and screamed and cried. "Sword Saint Sir, I will worship you fully." "You are dead, no way, don't curse me." The one who attacked the Devil Sword was Mina. She came to take revenge for him hurting her sister before. Mina had now unleashed all her hunter power of SS level. That was the highest level hunter in Korea. She had never announced this before. She must be stronger than that homeless guy. There was no comparison between her and him. The firepower was fired down and made a loud noise. The traces of the explosion were really terrifying. Luckily they dodged in time. Not only that, I couldn't believe that there was such a level of attack skill. She really wanted to kill us. Next, she fired a huge ball of ice energy down on the Devil Sword. He was frozen immediately and his legs couldn't move either. Shin realized that this was just an illusion. Mina's real power was mind control. Don't let her fool you. Mina also said to herself that my power is in the mental field and all these things are just illusions. But you don't know that perfect illusions are no different from reality. She lifted up a huge mountain. Even if this was just an illusion, if this kind of magic was engraved into your body, you would all die anyway. If you don't want to be destroyed like this, tell me your identity and purpose. Shin then also told the truth that he was that person, a third-rate writer who had been terminated for being greedy and lazy. Right now I'm focusing on making Mary a S-level hunter. I don't know what's going on either, but please let Mary go. Of course, she didn't believe that he was just a deadbeat writer. A huge rock fell straight down on them. Shin used his skill-sharing skill to unleash a powerful punch that shattered it, proving his terrifying power. Mina also had to groan. Just a simple punch could break it. How crazy! The Devil Sword on one side was idolizing him. He even wanted to kill himself because he didn't dare to face the illusion just now. He was beaten by Shin and then reported. Mina had to use her mental field to attack him. His soul was pushed to a strange place. The ground seemed hard, but it was also very soft, and the gentle fragrance of the wind made me want to close my eyes. There was nothing here, but I felt like I could hear the sound of cicadas in the summer night. It was as if I had finally found the peace that I always wanted. This made Mina even more annoyed. With just one finger, his soul was sinking down. He wanted to use the index finger skill of God, but it had no effect. If he was sucked into it, his body would enter a vegetative state and he would never wake up again. He only knew how to advise her to calm down, but this hot-headed girl kept kicking him down under the water. She forced him to reveal his true identity and purpose. He just shouted that she was exposing herself. It was white because she wore a short skirt. He didn't want to look, but he had to. Mina's face was full of blue veins and she kicked him down directly. Shin's whole body became very sleepy, but he was still trying to resist. The condition for activating the Dreamless Flower was activated. It suddenly shot up from under the water and attacked Mina, making her unable to react. Luckily, she was fast enough to escape from its attack. She didn't understand why these weird things appeared in her mind space. This was a place where no one could enter unless she allowed it. Maybe it was because of that pervert. Meanwhile, he was sleeping soundly with the protection of the dreamless flower. It was indeed a good opportunity to sleep in. After a while, the terrifying power of the demon flower made Mina unable to do anything but dodge. She felt this helplessness before. It was exactly like the horror of that day. Her whole body was wrapped by the demon flower and it was preparing to make a fresh salad out of her. She didn't want to die yet. She still had a lot of things to do, and the most important thing was to take revenge on the dark dragon that killed her parents. At this time, Shin suddenly saw himself in a strange place. The system allowed him to observe Mina's nightmare. The nightmare of Soul Mina started 15 years ago. The dark dragon that was called the worst monster of all time had a reason for it. It ate hundreds of people with one breath and even included Mina and Miri's parents. Finally, it marked the two sisters. The dark dragon saw their strong potential and marked them with the intention of using them as sacrifices. Thanks to the seal, Soul Mina easily became a S-level hunter. After becoming a S-level hunter, she lived with the only goal of avenging her parents. The dragon's curse also did not spare Mina. Her power could quickly increase, but it also reduced her lifespan. Clearly, with this speed, she would not live long. She did not want her sister to share the same fate with her, so she sealed part of Miri. She did not let the girl reach S-level to protect her sister. But this guy was trying to ruin all her efforts. He also escaped from there because Mina's mind space was destroyed after being swallowed by the dreamless flower. Fortunately, it spit her out and he ran to see if she was okay. Suddenly, she called him Mom in a strange way. Calling him husband was still acceptable, but Mom was a bit wrong. The power of his little finger also had no effect. He messaged privately to ask the gods, but got no results. He was also told by the dreamless flower that he had to sleep with Mina to cure her illness. Although Shin was poor and ugly, he was not that kind of person. He had no bad intentions when the dreamless nightmare said that I had to sleep with her. The memories that I had absorbed from her would return in the dream. I just made her mind go back to when she was young, but this accidentally turned him into a kidnapper of a S-level hunter. He had to hide in the mountains so no one would find out. And the Devil Sword also followed him here to complete the mission of upgrading God's downgrade. He decided to invest in the Heavenly Devil Sword. If he could reach rank S, it would not be a waste of money. He also gave him a bunch of God's blessing water to cultivate. Suddenly, there was a loud noise and the person who came was Park Yu-hyun, a S-level hunter and Mina's companion. He came here to look for her. The Devil Sword started to act like, you know, this is the Great Sword Saint? If you don't know, it's really disappointing. I didn't expect that a famous hunter would have such a narrow vision. He even said that Mina was defeated by this Sword Saint and could not live without him. Yu-hyun was provoked and furious. The Devil Sword also said that Sword Saint, sir, don't worry, this guy will be handled by me. He rushed up at the fastest speed but was hit hard by Yu-hyun. He suddenly disappeared. This was the skill of instant teleportation. He grabbed his neck and interrogated him about where Mina was. Shin was stupid at this moment. He saw clearly that his sword soul was a red dragon. This was bad. Shin immediately used his godly finger and pointed at the red dragon. Suddenly, his whole body could not move and the red dragon also sweated and trembled. It was standing before the majesty of a god. At this time, his dragon soul sword also cracked because of this and his face turned pale. Who is this god and how can he be so strong? While they were still arguing with each other, Mina rushed over here. She woke up and was very angry. She yelled at him to shut up and saw Shin being choked by the red-haired guy. She then directly called him a bad person, making him cry loudly. Next, she used her power to knock him away for touching her boyfriend. She also ran to call Shin Miri, making everyone freeze. He then had to play along so that she could become more normal. In the eyes of the red-haired guy, he still imagined that these two were dating and suffering. He cried and felt sorry for them. Shin healed his wounds and the system immediately notified him that he could still become stronger. This guy then started to want to make Yu Hyun his follower to complete his mission. It was a great skill. Even the S-class healer he met in South America couldn't do that. Mr. BQ Han, I think we have a misunderstanding. I will explain a little bit. Right at that moment, 3 helicopters flew over. There were the principal and Miri too. Could they also think that he was the perverted kidnapper? And Mina, after seeing her sister, recognized her and ran to him. He had to start explaining this situation. We were in a perfect situation to be misunderstood. Shin narrated exactly what had happened. The rest of the story about Seoul Mina sealing Miri's talent was also exposed to the light. When she knew this, Miri cried a lot. Her strict sister also did it to protect her. The principal's daughter also gave him a B-class hunter card. In the end, she was also persuaded by her father. The flower monster was enough to prove his ability. As soon as he mentioned it, both Mina and the principal were haunted and their bodies kept shaking. And when he became a B-class hunter, he had enough qualifications to become a teacher of the academy, but he still had a lot of things to do. He had to raise ants, and even though he was only a third-rate writer, he still had to write. He also had to increase the stats of his S-class followers. No matter what he said, everyone knew he was busy. But when he saw the high salary, he turned 180 degrees and said he would become a teacher of the academy. Actually, his lifelong dream was to stand on the podium. Can I start working tomorrow? He was speechless. The next day, Miri was very happy in class because today was the day Shin came to class. However, his appearance was too shabby and he even had a sword demon as his assistant. Hello everyone, during the time that Mr. Jongguak is sick, I will be the new teacher. The sword demon started to show his evil face. You brats, you have to know that you are very honored to be taught by the great sword saint. He directly let the students study by themselves while he took a nap, making them not understand anything. However, they also couldn't make any noise because the sword demon was very dangerous. From now on, you better not make any sound at all, even if it's very small. Anyone who dares to disturb the sleep of the sword saint will not be forgiven. The next day, although the students' exams were coming up, this guy still told them to study by themselves so that he could sleep in. The day after that and the day after that were the same. This made the students very frustrated, but they didn't dare to say anything. What was wrong with this person? Before us, he did nothing but study for 4 days. When he woke up, he played some games with ants or something. What kind of teacher was he? He didn't know anything and he also had the nerve to eat free food. He saw Miri eat little and even intended to gulp down her portion. His face was too thick. A man wearing shabby and sloppy sportswear who only knew how to find excuses to make us study by ourselves all day, what was good about that? But in Miri's eyes, seeing him every day was enough. The girl was about to become a fanatic. Her best friend Myeong decided to save her friend from this swamp. Even if she had to struggle with this thing by herself, she had to blow away the fog before Miri's eyes. The next day, in the practice session, she decided to challenge Teacher Shin and defeat him to make her best friend open her eyes. However, this guy said that the sword demon would handle everything and went to sleep in. This made her even more angry. What was that? How was this different from studying by themselves? He arranged the sword fighting practice and then went to sleep. Why did she complain? Because the class had 21 people, he didn't have a partner to practice with, so he had to be her opponent. Teacher Choi Eun-bai said she would deduct his salary and make him pay for lunch if he did his work half-heartedly. At least he should pretend that he was working. Every day, He gave up his bed for Mary's sisters to treat them. He also couldn't sleep with those two drunkards. Those two useless guys had been at his house for a week and they drank every day. They didn't go back to their rooms even if they had one. They just wanted to mooch off him. And while they slept, little Mina woke up and asked for food, making him not have enough time to sleep either. Mary's best friend had a soul summoning technique and immediately summoned a huge zombie monster. But right when it was about to attack, it stopped and knelt down respectfully to him. This loser and low-class guy was honored to meet the great and mighty existence. He didn't understand what was going on either. All the students were amazed and curious. They didn't know how strong Teacher Shin was to make the zombie respect him like that. He unconsciously put his hand on its head quickly. Huss's past flooded into his head. Huss, who had become a knight of the giant god, had lost his life in battle with all his pride after failing to protect the female priest. Huss had become a vengeful and wandering ghost in the underworld for thousands of years. It was a tragic story when Gami Aonji summoned him. The system also showed a message that you had captured the holy power of the Sky Mountain Man and successfully accepted the follower of the Sky Mountain Man, the ghost Huss. Moreover, you could help him evolve by consuming holy power. You only saw his two hands, one black and one white, flying straight to Huss to help him evolve. Everyone saw a bright beam of light and had to be terrified and curious about the identity of their teacher. The ghost Huss had successfully evolved into the end of darkness. He immediately thanked him for his grace and swore on his soul that he would become his shield. Shin then fainted because he had consumed too much holy power and his body was drained. This guy could now meet the gods who were watching him through his dreams. The beautiful and prosperous god was helping him recover. He was lucky. He did not know that while he was resting, the evil monster from 15 years ago had returned. Its purpose was Minamiri, who had been marked before. A terrifying creature stormed into the hunter school. He killed innocent people wherever he went without saying a word. He punched the floor and made the whole building shake. In his eyes, only two seeds, Miri and Mina, mattered. The rest were all trash. He grabbed a stone and crushed it, then threw it away with a terrifying speed. He instantly defeated everyone in the academy. Luckily, Black Sword used his great sword to protect them and they barely escaped with their lives. They had to hold on for 10 minutes while waiting for the S-rank hunters and the principal to return, but the monster would not allow that to happen. His body began to transform into a crocodile and he created a territory barrier that only Lord-level monsters could do. Black Sword had to tell Miri to run to the shelter and he would distract him. But the monster's power was too terrifying and his sword was directly shattered. His body was also crushed and pressed against the wall. Taking advantage of that, Miri attacked him from behind with a thunder strike and turned him into a roasted crocodile. At the same time, inside the shelter, Mina was trembling with fear. Suddenly, she felt that her sister was in danger and disappeared. Miri was caught by the dragon and slammed to the ground. She could not resist his absolute power. He took out his dull nozzle and intended to swallow her and complete the sacrifice ritual. But Mina arrived in time and unleashed her skill of mind manipulation, but it had no effect on the monster. Moreover, she was easily caught by his tail. At that moment, they were completely immersed in fear and could not do anything. Mina could only shout Shin's name for help and it seemed to work. Shin was resting at the divine tree and woke up immediately. His holy power was also fully restored and he did not need to stay there anymore. The monster was still trying to sacrifice him to the god of destruction, but suddenly he felt his tail lighter and turned back to see his tail lying on the ground. In a blink of an eye, Shin rescued Miri in his berserk mode. He then rushed up to make scales for him. The crocodile's power was very terrifying but he could not hit him. Shin's body was soft like water and he dodged every attack. He tried to take advantage of the opportunity to attack him in the air, but his big mouth opened wide and Shin cut it with a small knife, making him even more angry. He bit a big piece but only caught air. Shin was furious and stood on his mouth and challenged him. Roasted crocodile must be delicious, his skin is thick too, selling it would make a lot of money. They fought again, but the crocodile could not do anything to him. He pierced him with countless wounds. Black Sword nearby also had to admire him. He was truly a holy sword, he did not know when he would be able to fight at that level. The crocodile then had to unleash all his power and his body began to change. This was the power that the god of destruction gave him. His body shrank and his big mouth was not as wide as before. He looked more sturdy though. Shin looked down on him and said this was all he had. Why did he look more retarded than before? But when his sword swung at him, he could not hurt the crocodile. What was going on? He did not believe that his holy sword could not do anything to him. Shin hacked at him furiously, but the result was still nothing. He could not pierce through his 5 spiny armors and his hand was also caught by him. The crocodile then arrogantly said that his fruit-cutting sword would never cut through the scales that the divine gave him. With a loud bang, his body was punched and slammed into the wall. Shin could not even move. The crocodile approached and lifted him up with a strange and weird hand that he shot out. He wanted to sacrifice him to the god of destruction. Shin was silently using his thumb to heal, but the system warned that he did not have enough holy power and could not use this skill. He was already in a bad situation and now he had a death notification. The demon warrior also rushed over to save him, but his power could not compare with the monster and he was blown away by a strike. Shin wondered if he had been too arrogant when he became a god. Wasn't he always the one who tried to run away and did not care about anyone else? He could hear and feel the desperate prayers of his followers for him, their sincere wishes and the tears they shed for him. At that moment, a sudden notification appeared that a part of his power had been restored by the prayers and tears of his followers for him. He also received skill sharing from the demon sword and Hus. He got a new heavenly demon god sword blessed by Hus the Immortal. In a blink of an eye, his power came back after being buffed. He easily cut off one arm of the crocodile. He was still standing there dumbfounded, not understanding how this could happen. He clearly had been the winner, so why was it like this? The skill sharing from the demon sword was activated. Outside, the old principal and the red-haired guy were using all their power to break the barrier, but they failed. But their attacks had no effect. Suddenly, there was a terrible tremor inside that shook the whole building. It was because Shin was dancing with his 3 cat-scratching sword moves. The sword he slashed even broke his holy sword, but he did not care and just had to act cool. The crocodile next to him also did not understand what was going on. He thought he was just bluffing, but it turned out he was really bluffing. He did not have a scratch on his body. He angrily asked him if he was playing with him. Then he went crazy and attacked again, but this time Shin was still like before, bluffing with one sword. He immediately realized that something was wrong. His body was cut off again and it hurt a lot. Next, he did not have time to do anything before Shin cut him into pieces. The barrier was also destroyed. Until he was about to die, he did not know what he had done to him. He screamed in despair and then found out that the person in front of him was not a human but a god. He should have run away as soon as he saw him for the first time, but now it was too late. With one sword only, his body shattered and became one with the dust. Xian's body was wrapped in divine power at that time. The system also showed a notification, follower of the god of destruction. Good Tap had been defeated and was absorbing the sacrifice. Congratulations to follower Good Tap for being a valuable sacrifice of rank S. His body was exhausted and he collapsed. The 2 demon warriors also ran over and cried. He could not die here. He was clearly just sleeping. Did they have to act like they were at a funeral? When Shin woke up, Mina told him that he had slept for a whole week. The system also showed a notification that Soul Mina's wish had come true. She was now his fourth follower. Soul Mina was a powerful follower worth 2S ranks. This made him curious. He did not expect his wife to become his follower too. The system also tempted him to kiss her to make it official. He was about to do it, when a loud noise shook the room. A huge shark was thrown into their room. Mina saw this and screamed in fear and hugged him. It turned out that Ino the demon warrior wanted to offer him a giant shark to replenish his health. He did not know what the guy ate to be so crazy. He was an ant and he went to the sea to catch a megalodon shark. He gave up. The principal and everyone else ran over and were shocked too. Where did he dig up such a big shark? He could only explain that there was a roasted whole shark for lunch and they could add it to the academy's menu. A few days later, Shin finally recovered and returned to his teaching job. He had to work to earn money for his mouth. The students were constantly gossiping that he was the secret weapon of the association. Of course, that was why Soul Mina, an S rank, always followed him around. He was the one who killed the SS rank monster when they were in the bubble. Black Sword also heard them whispering and started to show off. They finally realized how powerful the Holy Sword was. Their attitude also improved and they became very respectful of him or else they would get it. This made Shin a bit touched. This was the first time they welcomed him like this. In their eyes, he was the true hero who could defeat the SS rank monster. They thought he would teach them something amazing, but he still used his old trick and told the whole class to study by themselves. The atmosphere started to go down seriously. He wanted them to study by themselves so he could finish his novel deadline, but maybe that was not possible. In the end, he still had to tutor and advise a student who had just returned to normal. In the counseling room, thanks to his skill of assessment from the system, Shin could easily see the strengths and weaknesses of everyone. Shin used his little finger to heal the girl and she immediately felt full of power. Her muscles also grew bigger and she looked better. Her sense of sharpness also doubled. Who would dare to reject her big confession now? They would probably get beaten up badly. The next ones were Mary and Black Sword. It turned out that these two also wanted him to advise them on how to become stronger, even though they had been trained separately at home. They were so greedy. They fought over who would be advised first and no one gave in, making him a headache. Just then, his phone showed a notification that his anti-follower was feeling desperate and praying. He did not understand what had happened to his ant army, but he saw countless warnings appear at the same time. It turned out that the army of demon ants was attacking their village, led by a 9-headed snake, a follower of Abi, the ruler of the swamp, 2,000 years old. He had the power of endless regeneration, along with a winged tiger monster, 666 years old, and a fire monster, 2,200 years old. They were three of the strongest followers with power even more terrifying than the SS rank crocodile before. At this rate, the whole ant colony would be wiped out in one blow. The time until the battle broke out was more than 78 hours. Their number was about 100 billion bugs, which made him a bit scared. He thought that even a truckload of pesticide would not be able to stop them. Well, this time he was serious. He could only quickly complete the task of advancing to the low god rank to solve this problem. He immediately went to the old principal and wanted him to tell him the keyword to become his follower, like Miri before. But when he said trust him this time, it did not work. And his strange action also made the old man suspicious. He thought he was after his daughter and would never agree to marry him. Mary's sisters also thought it was true and prepared to go and fight. The principal, after knowing his healing ability, immediately wanted to ask for help. The follower task was activated: heal the friend of Choi Kong-san and show him the power of the great god. The target was Choi Kong-san and the reward was his trust. Shin was immediately happy. This time he might get another S-rank follower. They went to meet a beautiful girl who was sleeping in a flower pot. She was also protected very carefully, surely a not ordinary person. Her name was Meyer and she did not age since they met. Meyer was not only a friend who had fought with him on the battlefield, but also a hero who had saved Korea with him. Miracle's life was almost over and she was absorbing the life of plants to sustain herself. That was why the flowers were constantly withering. He also used assessment to skin her once and could not see her real age. This was the first time something like this happened. He suddenly heard her voice and it seemed like she was not happy because he tried to investigate her real age. He was pulled into her space, just like Mina's skill. Not only that, she also knew his name and said he was the chosen one. I felt that you were the embodiment of evil, but in reality you looked kind and good-hearted, but a bit pathetic, so I'm relieved. Then what was this? Was she praising or mocking him? He felt annoyed. She had planned to use her remaining power to kill him if he was as she felt at first. But the reason she brought him here was just to chat. Her body outside was already dead. Shin also used his finger to heal her, but it failed. With his current holy power, he could not heal her. Suddenly she knelt down and said trust him. She decided to entrust her fate and the earth to him. The system also showed a notification that Lee Meyer had become his follower. The number of S-rank followers was now 8 out of 10. He only needed 2 more female followers to complete the rank-up task. Then Lee Meyer disappeared right in front of him. Before leaving, she said the answer would be near him and left him the skill of prophetic dreams. Like that, Shin started to look for more S-rank followers. The demon sword was also training very hard, but to increase to S-rank hunter, his power was not enough yet. Even though he fought with all S-ranks, he still got beaten up instead of eating rice. It would surely take a long time for him to increase to S-rank. Besides, Mina is focusing on breaking the seal of her sister who wants to help her have enough power to protect herself from the evil dragon. They don't want to experience the feeling of powerlessness like before. However, breaking the seal is not easy when Mina has not recovered as before. She also thinks about the fact that he once said he didn't like older women, so she gets angry and says that she still likes candy, so she is still very young. This case of being infatuated is also speechless. There are only more than 48 hours left until the time of the battle. He also has to hurry up to improve his strength. Shin immediately told Mary that he would leave this world for a while and everything would be handled by the sword demon. He means to sleep only. Does he need to explode like that? He will join the hell training with the dream chaser. The time in the dream world flows much slower than in reality, meaning he can practice in his dream for 3 months equivalent to about 2 days in reality. In front of him is the palace of the sword god. This scary uncle is the heavenly sword of absolute cutting. He wants to borrow a sword to practice but is forced to pay a sky-high price of 1 million coins. Why don't you go rob instead? In the end, he still had to vomit to be able to practice, but he got back a wooden sword that was crappy. This was clearly being cheated. He carefully checked it 1 round, old wooden sword, shabby sword made from peach wood 850 years ago, sword used by the founder of Huashan sect to practice. The canvas is not bad anyway, he has to use it temporarily. Infinite sword is activated, the official experiment begins. He will have to hit him once to be considered passing. The remaining time is 30 hours 50 minutes and 10 seconds, synchronization rate 46%. The two rushed into battle and throughout that time he couldn't hit him at all. Shin went crazy drinking stuff to restore his strength, synchronization rate also rose to 46.5%. Finally he grasped his weakness. This time a sword as fast as lightning hit the heavenly sword, making him unable to resist. Finally he was able to hit the enemy once, the synchronization rate also rose to 47%. Only when reaching 50% synchronization rate can he have the strength to win the upcoming battle. Next will be training at the muscle temple. The big black smelly muscle god has been here since when waiting for him. Shin was held by him with his big whip and beaten until numb. He said that was the only way to quickly get eternal muscles like him. Then he made Shin start with 2 big dumbbells. He used all his strength to lift it up, but it didn't move at all. Looking back at the weight of 100 tons, I give up. Even gods are people with buffalo strength who can lift it up. With a groan, he finally lifted it up a little bit, but almost ran out of breath. Next, Shin drank stuff again to restore his strength. His synchronization rate reached 48%. Next, he practiced with the silent nightmare. It was really perverted. Eating punches and asking him to hit harder would be better. Indeed, none of these demons and gods are normal. The remaining time for him was only more than a minute, and the synchronization rate reached 49%. Despite trying hard, Shin still lacked 1%. If he drank medicine, he would need 2,000 bottles to get 1%. Shin had to go crazy and rush up to attack the silent flower. Punches as fast as lightning made it unable to resist. Its body was constantly ecstatic but still refused to vomit out the last 1% for him. The final training time has ended. The phone shows the current synchronization level of him is 49.9%, clearly teasing each other. I'll die to please you guys. Fortunately, after that, the system announced that your synchronization level has reached 50%. From now on, you can directly participate in Angel. In addition, the psychology and endurance of an A-level believer increase under the effect of synchronization. This means that the demon sword and Miri can easily achieve rank S or higher. This is also a good thing. Suddenly, the system showed a warning that the first attack of the royal army had begun. This event marked the beginning of the battle that threatened the fate of Yuasin. His people were very scared of their overwhelming power. The army of flies was sent up to attack first. Billions of fly warriors were preparing to release poison down to Asia City. Suddenly, at this time, the sky seemed to be pierced by a hole. Shin's huge body and countless insecticides had been prepared. Shin used the power of God's index finger combined with the skill of mind control and simultaneously released countless insecticides. The fly army was immediately hit and fell apart. They didn't know what this poison was, they only knew it was very dangerous. As soon as they touched it, they would die. Their army ran away in panic. Oh my God, that's the devil in the legend that people say was worshipped by some crazy people. Countless of their troops were destroyed. This scene made the deputy official unable to stand still anymore. She immediately sent monsters to attack him. A big winged tiger directly used its wings to blow poisonous gas towards Shin. If so, his ants could be poisoned and die. Shin had to use his mind control skill to pull all his insect spray to save his ants. That's a lot of money, it hurts. And the kitten kept eating ant meat to sacrifice. It wanted to become stronger so that it could bleed with him. He still wanted to give it a fight. Suddenly in the sky, an army of blind dragonflies surrounded this place. Their jaws could even crush rocks. If they couldn't kill him, they could at least cause him fatal wounds. The believers could take care of the rest. They rushed down his body madly, but with the muscle exercise before, Shin's body was stronger than the devil dragonfly biting his body couldn't do anything to him. They still didn't give up wanting to make up for quantity with quality. In no time they covered his body, but only like mosquitoes biting stainless steel. Shin used God's fire finger to release terrifying fire power, turning them into grilled dragonflies at will and firing a few fireballs, also causing the ant army to sink in a sea of fire, screaming and running away. However, after that blow, his holy power also began to run out. On the other side, the believer of the fire was still staring at him intently. Has he never seen a beautiful woman before, or why is he staring so much? Kwanhoa also began to ask for his help to respond to this battle. Ho Luan would agree with 100 million sacrifices. Just like that, it fired a huge flame-sweeping 100 million ant army to increase its strength, and its body also gradually became bigger and bigger. This situation is a bit tense. Ho Luan rushed straight to attack him. Shin had to use the finger of a god, but he did not have enough divine power to activate his skill. As a result, his whole body was blown away and fell flat on the ground. Was everything over at this point? He could only blame himself for being too weak and unable to protect his people. Tae Tu Qian wanted to use his healing skill for him, but it was impossible. Ho Luan had prevented him from recovering. At this time, Qian Somod asked for permission to descend to the mortal world. Fortunately, he still had enough divine power to do this. In a flash of lightning, Qian Somod appeared here. He had fought in the Tower of Warriors and became very powerful. However, before he could show off his strength, he was swallowed by a big cat. He did not even fill the gap between its teeth. It was truly heartbreaking. Suddenly, the system showed a notification that the Sword of Destruction had completed repairing the sword for him. There were also a few items for him. The space here seemed to be torn apart. Appearing in front of Shin was a huge broadsword that radiated a terrifying aura. It was definitely not an ordinary thing. As soon as he grabbed the sword, Shin's strength increased crazily. The monsters seemed to be able to sense the danger coming closer and kept trembling. The heavenly demon kingdom was launched immediately, causing the body of Ho Luan to shatter. Even the nine-headed snake couldn't do anything against his power. No matter how many heads it had, it was still skewered. Only the little cat was still hiding in the air. As long as it landed, he would make it a kitchen rack. Shin then pretended to have exhausted his strength and his body kept shaking after the blow. This idiot didn't expect to be fooled. He rushed down to attack him at the fastest speed and then felt something wrong. His strength was increasing non-stop. It turned out that Miri's disciple seal had been broken and she had become a rank S hunter. Now he only needed one more person to complete the task of upgrading the prophet god. Shin's holy power was also fully charged, and the little cat only knew how to be shocked. Please say goodbye to him forever. Shin suddenly felt danger behind his back. It turned out that the nine-headed snake had recovered its strength. It was a mortal regeneration. The previous blow couldn't defeat it at all. It shot countless heads to attack him. The sword in his hand also spoke, making everyone stunned. He could also feel its terrifying power, which definitely didn't come from this world. The sword cursed the nine-headed snake. At first, it was confident because of its immortal power, but its confidence was immediately shattered by the curse of the sword, causing its head to disappear in the void. It turned out that as soon as it was cut by the blade, it had become a dead person and its body gradually faded away. The system also showed a notification: you have killed the disciple of the ruler of the swamp abyss and started to absorb sacrifices. The task of upgrading to low-level demon god is 8 out of 10 completed. He felt a terrible bloodlust. It turned out that the kitten in the sky had been preparing to launch a big move, Wind Chi Rock, wanting to tear him into pieces. Fortunately, Shin was able to block them. He was still going to kill it. Suddenly, the kitten cried as if something in its stomach hit it out. Its whole body lay on the ground with a headache. It turned out that the number 1 ant warrior was not dead yet and went crazy from inside, smashing its stomach. Ho Luan then also collapsed and didn't know where he came from when he recovered a little bit. He asked Hoa Quan to sacrifice everything for him to get stronger and fight with the devil god. Even though she didn't agree, Ho Luan didn't stop and crazily fired fire power, burning all the ant army of several 100 billion people. This guy was also too crazy. Shin also had to secretly measure his size, which was increasing non-stop. The number 1 ant warrior threw a huge stone at him, but before it reached him, the stone also melted away. The sword in his hand started to speak, saying that he just needed to cut it in half and trust it. The skill of the heavenly demon kingdom was slashed out and Ho Luan was cut in half. Indeed, he didn't just know how to talk nonsense, but everything was not over yet. Ho-Luan once again reunited its strength as if it was the sun god. His body was also about to melt. Shin then almost despaired. His holy power had also run out after the blow, but first he had to calm down. Suddenly he realized that the number 1 warrior had not sacrificed the little cat. It coincidentally was worth 2 S levels. The task of upgrading to low-level God was completed October 10th. With a loud bang, Shin upgraded to a low-level demon god. His holy power was increasing crazily and filling his body. He used God's finger to attack it, but it had no effect because by then Ho-Luan's power was equal to a high-level god. Moreover, the heavenly demon kingdom also had no effect on it. Just as he was about to give up, the demon sword had learned the second form of the heavenly demon sword skill. Through the skill sharing, Shin could also use it. And the heavenly demon sword seemed very familiar with the sword in his hand. It finally remembered its true shape, which was the heavenly demon. The Eye of God was activated and Shin could see all the past of the heavenly demon. The heavenly demon had killed his daughter who had become a disciple of the god of destruction. He also killed millions of believers of his daughter before he committed suicide. The omnipotent heavenly sword used revenge as bait to lure the heavenly demon into becoming its disciple. However, the heavenly demon refused and said that he didn't like the liar, so the omnipotent heavenly sword erased his memory and sealed him in his sword for thousands of years, leaving him penniless. Demonic cult then asked him if he could avenge him. Yes, I will definitely defeat that god of destruction with one blow. This made him laugh loudly. All right, use my power. You deserve it. You deserve to be my master. With a loud bang, his index finger shot out a terrifying power that blew away Ho-Luan. It also didn't understand what the hell had just happened. The system also showed a notification that the task of upgrading to low-level god was completed. He then was completely confident that he could fight him one more time. Ho-Luan was very angry. You only got a little power from that crazy old man. And you think you can resist me now? Worms are always worms, die all. Demonic cult also told him that he could only extinguish Ho-Luan's fire with a bigger flame. The second form of the heavenly demon holy sword was awakened and slashed out a blue flame. When it collided with Ho-Luan's fire, it was immediately cut off. Just like that, he skewered it a few more times. He still thought that the wound would heal quickly as before, but the power of the blue fire was much stronger than that and directly burned its body. Only heard a scream of agony. Finally the sky here was returned to its original peace and the believers were constantly congratulating. After this victory, Shin would rest for a while and leave the remaining work to Tae-2 and the number 1 warrior. After this holy war, Shin's reputation spread across the continent. Now he could challenge the task of upgrading to mid-level god for Loi then and Ma then. The next day, the principal called him and asked him to come to the Hunters' Union immediately. They had found an egg of a good tap crocodile of SS level left behind. When he arrived, the principal and Mina's sisters greeted him. The demon sword could not participate because it was not a member of the Hunters Guild. It could only wait outside in the room. All the S-level hunters from different countries gathered here to see the crocodile egg. Yu-Han also wanted to invite Mina's sisters to sit with him, but he was rejected right away. She just wanted to sit next to her boyfriend. Everyone had to wait while the crocodile egg was brought here. Shin also noticed a few strange people here. A girl wearing a penguin mask was quite stupid, but when he used his appraisal skill, he couldn't find out who she was and why she was so mysterious. The egg of the good tap crocodile was also brought here. They had brought it from Africa. Among hundreds of eggs, this was the only one that had not hatched yet. Suddenly, at this time, it reacted and made everyone panic. Crack! A baby crocodile hatched inside. It looked cute and not scary like good tap, making him want to catch and raise it. but it also identified the enemy who killed its mother standing right in front of it. It rushed at him with lightning speed, but Shin only saw its movement too slow and gently raised his index finger, making the baby crocodile freeze. What's wrong? Let's talk slowly, handsome guy. Next, he was attacked by several S-level hunters for doubting his life. He wondered if he would not be beaten if he hid in the eggshell. While the tall black guy shouted to kill the baby crocodile, an old man stopped him. He was an S-level hunter, the leader of the Immortal Guild, also known as the One-Man Army. The two broke out in a dispute. The white-bearded uncle immediately released his terrifying power and blew away a part of the room. He summoned his warrior. The blonde guy also didn't give up and released his spirit armor around his body, intending to fight a bloody battle. The old principal had to quickly stop them from being violent. Damn. Shin next to him was thinking that watching a movie without popcorn was a bit boring. Only he could hear the baby crocodile constantly begging for help. Humans were really scary. As soon as it hatched, it was attacked by everyone. The system suddenly showed a notification that he could save the little monster in secret. After agreeing, it disappeared into the void and entered his ant city. However, its appearance had become very cute and harmless. While he still didn't know how to deal with this situation, suddenly the girl wearing a penguin mask appeared behind him and made everyone stand still. He knew he was handsome already. Missy, please have some dignity. It turned out that she thought he was the one who caught the baby crocodile and kept questioning him. He thought she was going to attack him, but then she introduced herself as Pang Hai. Weird indeed. He also didn't understand why the S-level hunters were so crazy these days. The demon sword suddenly rushed in here because it thought its big brother was bullied. Just like that, Shin had an excuse to escape from here by massaging the demon sword for a while. At this time, the old principal realized that the baby crocodile had disappeared and panicked. Everyone started to become a mess of suspicion that they were the ones who kidnapped it. Fortunately, Shin had escaped before that. He hid temporarily in the infirmary to check on his aunt's situation. Tae-2 Antai named the crocodile Ugly Ugly and promised to take good care of it. To prevent it from causing trouble, he directly placed a super strong seal on its neck. Otherwise, it would eat all his new ants clean. Suddenly Rank Su came looking for him. He didn't say anything and his hand started to gather strength and intended to attack him with blood. First of all, isn't it Kong Wind and not Demon Sword? What is your relationship with him? Shin didn't see him say that he was his follower, so he had to bluff that they were colleagues, meaning that he was also a member of the third-class guild, right? What the hell is the third-class guild? I don't know anything. He immediately attacked Shin, but this speed was too slow. Shin was too lazy to feed him porridge with onions. Boom! A loud noise. When did the demon sword rush in here? The guy in the past was very happy to see the demon sword as if they were very close. He even asked about various things. That's why the demon sword blocked his number, because he thought he was a pervert. The demon sword was very angry because his friend dared to attack his master. If you still consider yourself a sword master, then quickly kneel down and apologize to him. The holy sword quickly looked at his face and saw that he was not noble at all. And the crazy guy heard this and had more hallucinations about the Pork Belly Guild or something. Do I care? He had to make his friend see clearly by defeating him. He directly launched his ultimate skill, a snake sword with poisonous fangs. He also hadn't tested his new strength yet. After upgrading to low-level god, he was S-level and probably not easy to beat, right? His clothes were torn by his muscles. He still thought that this was just the skill of the third-class guild. Moreover, how could the speed of those big guys compare with him? However, standing in front of his fist, he realized that Shin's speed was very terrifying. If he ate a punch, he would definitely have no teeth to chew porridge. Just then, Mina rushed here. It turned out that the two of them were too noisy and disturbed her sleep. Mina directly pointed at the white-haired guy and called him ugly and dared to bully her husband. The skill of spatial illusion was released, making the white-haired guy unable to breathe and fell to the ground. Fortunately, he was not dead yet. The demon sword took care of him and threw him out to the garbage dump for bothering his holy sword. Mary also ran here because she felt a huge source of energy. Then she saw her sister cuddling with him on the floor with a lot of blood, making her unable to understand what had happened here. As a result, he had to mop the floor. How unlucky. People were rich and powerful here but became moppers. It was really shameful. Myung also ran here and saw the girl looking very worried. It turned out that her grandfather said he really wanted to see the teacher, so she thought he should run right away. He had seen through all the evolution and wanted him to explain this. At this time, a luxury car came to school. It turned out that the chairman of the Immortal Guild was Myung's grandfather, and there was also a girl who looked like a ghost girl next to him. The principal immediately got angry because this old man dared to come to his territory. There must be nothing good between them. Very quickly, there was a strong smell of gunpowder. If you experiment on students like last time, I will send you to heaven. Don't worry, I just came here to see my granddaughter's school. Besides, I also want to meet her teacher Shin. Shin thought that burying the crocodile had been discovered by the old man and it was really over. They met in the principal's office and he could only act as naturally as possible, but then the old man acted completely opposite. He said that he was 23 years old and old enough to get married, didn't he? The future son-in-law seemed very pleased to meet you. When he heard this, he immediately felt embarrassed. What did he just say? Was he trying to set me up with her? Shin had to decline immediately, saying, I have no intention of getting married. I enjoy being single and having fun. I prefer being alone without feeling lonely or sad. It's better this way. His eyes began to change. You can evolve your summoner soldiers, right? Head was only at B level, but he reached S level, right? This is the first time I see a power like yours. Do you think I will let you go when you have such power? I don't ask for anything too fancy. I just want the three of you to follow me. This is clearly begging, but you are strong, but not easy to please. He directly gave you a check of 1,000 billion if you agree to become his son-in-law. This is the first time Shin sees so much money. Is this the future at his wife's house? He also began to be moved, but then he saw her face. She was so scary, like a ghost woman who wanted his soul. He had to refuse. I'm sorry for disappointing you. I'm not a person who likes money. I will never agree to marry like this. He was about to leave when the ghost girl suddenly stood up and looked straight at him. Shin, with his appraisal skill, also knew that IGA Minion was a hybrid between a human and a dreamer who had been used for 20 years. She had a super ability that could seduce and mesmerize men when they looked into her eyes. She really wanted to seduce him. The principal tried to stop him, but he was blocked by the old man. I will send you to heaven first if you dare to threaten my granddaughter. You and your granddaughter are both crazy. Do you know how many men have been crippled and insane because of that ice skill? Turning to Shin, he didn't seem to care. He said directly that she was not his type. He had too much work and no time for dating. Shin left while the old men were shocked and the ghost girl was still stunned. This was the first time she was rejected by a man. Outside, Shin's mood was completely opposite to his action. He had just missed 1,000 billion. That was his money. Suddenly, behind him appeared a space door and Shin was pulled inside. On this side, the old man and his granddaughter were on their way back.